Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Money Garden. Today it's Money Monday, so today we're going to talk about finances. So last time I went over the 6 steps to financial independence. Let's recap those 6 steps. 1 was cash flow. Number 2 was debt management. Number 3 was emergency fund. Number 4 was proper protection. Number 5 was building wealth. And number 6 was preserving wealth. So today I'm going to start a 6-week series, or a 6-episode series if you will, where I'm going to talk a little bit more detail about each of these 6 steps, some of the things to keep in mind, how do we get them, what are some of the things that are important under these steps, etc. So with that said, let's get to it right away. And today we're going to talk about cash flow. What about cash flow? Well, number 1, I see it a lot where sometimes people are not exactly sure what cash flow might mean. We know what cash means, and we know what flow means, and we think we know what cash flow means. But what I have found that a lot of times when I speak to people or my clients, we get a little bit of confusion. So let's clear that up. Sometimes I have people who tell me, well, Liz, I don't have a cash flow. So what they really mean is they might have a negative cash flow, which is what I tell them. You might have a negative cash flow, but cash flow is income minus expenses equals cash flow. So if you have an income, which most people have an income, even if it's unemployment, you still get some incoming check, right? Some incoming money. Expenses are the outgoing money, which I know everybody has that, because if nothing else, you have to spend money for food, you have to spend money for gas, you have to spend money for living expenses, for rent, for your mortgage, whatever the case may be. So we all have expenses, and ultimately whatever's left, it's a cash flow. Now, of course, if your income is less than your expenses, or if you spend more than what you make, then of course you're going to have a negative cash flow. So let's assume my income is $10, my expenses are 11, then I have a -1 negative cash flow, right? Now if my income is $10 and my expenses are 6, now I have a $4 cash flow. Right? So essentially that's really that simple. It's not that complicated. Everybody has a cash flow. Sometimes there might be 0, or sometimes there might be negative, but we all have a cash flow. So that's about the definition of the cash flow. What is cash flow? Income minus expenses equal your cash flow. Then the question becomes, well, then how do we increase cash flow? Because really that's ultimately the goal. And we can increase cash flow 3 different ways. Number 1, we can increase your cash flow by figuring out a way to increase your income. You might think to yourself, well, I don't know, I have a job and that's it. Well, sometimes if we just allow ourselves to become a little bit more creative and start thinking about solutions instead of focusing on a problem. So the problem is the income is not enough, right? Or the paycheck is too small. I know many of us know what that feels like. Well, how about getting a second job? How about getting a part-time job? How about getting an additional skill? If you love your job, what you do, and you want to stay in your job, but you feel it's not paying you enough, then go and figure out what skill would you be able to learn or to develop. Maybe take a night class, maybe take a course, maybe, I don't know, to hone in on that skill, to become more skillful, to bring more value to the workplace, so that now you're able to earn more. Because in any workplace that you are, I'm sure there's always somebody who's going to be making more money. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Is it because seniority? Have they been there longer? Which gives them more experience, which gives them a little bit more knowledge or skill. And the point is, if we want to make more money, you guys, we have to become more valuable. Unfortunately, I see it way too often where people just feel like, I don't think I'm being paid enough. They should be paying more, they should be paying me more, and maybe that's normal, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I'm not debating that point. My point is that if you feel that you're worth more, you gotta be more valuable. You gotta be able to bring more value to whatever it is that you're doing. So ways to increase your income, whether getting a part-time job, whether getting a second job, whether getting a different job, whether getting a raise in your current job, to getting another skill, or figuring out what's your passion. Maybe if you figure out you have a hobby and think about it, how could I monetize it? So there's so many ways where we can increase our income. And then number 2, of course, I want to say it's the simpler way, but it's not necessarily true always. It's reducing your expenses. Figuring out ways where we can cut some expenses out. And the first step that I can highly recommend for you guys that you can start doing that is first document your expenses, because we cannot change something we're not aware of what it actually is. And this is, I think, one of the biggest I don't want to say necessarily mistakes, because most of us are not even aware of it, that we're doing it. But I would say this is one of the biggest disconnects for most people that I see, that their cash flow is not enough or it's not high enough. Usually their expenses are way too high, or they spend more than what they earn, but they never document where the money goes. They think they know the major expenses, right? If they have a mortgage or a rent, they will know, I know my mortgage is this much or my rent is this much. If they have a car payment, they know. But all the other expenses that we spend every single day, we don't document them. We don't write them down. Most of us don't do that. And I promise you, if you just took 30 days and you decided every single day you're going to put a little effort in it, maybe watch 15 minutes less television, okay? And sit down at the end of your day and say, what did I spend today? Where did I go today? Hold on to those receipts. Or maybe if you have a debit card, then don't use credit cards, right? Just use your debit card, because then now it's easy, because you have documentation of it. And for 30 days, and document, even if you just spend $2 on, I don't know, a pop at a vending machine or whatever, just document. Every single day, write down what you spent on. Even if you're just gonna have it 98% done, I promise you that first of all, it's gonna be eye-opening. Most of us underestimate the amount of money that we spend and where our expenses go. Most of us, we underestimate. All we know that somehow at the end of the month, wow, somehow I still don't have enough money. Well, we have to document it first, because you cannot change something we were not aware of. The first step starts with becoming aware of, establish your baseline. Establish, okay, if I want to change this, I have to know where I'm at first. So then now I can know where I'm going. And now I can maybe set some reasonable expectation in terms of how can I improve this. I can improve it by 10%, maybe I can improve it 15%. I don't know, it might be different for everybody. But the first step to reducing your expenses is understanding your expenses. So start documenting every single little expense that you do. And now once you know exactly where the money goes, you're going to be able to figure out ways where you can cut out some expenses. I promise you're going to be able to find, if nothing else, $50 savings or $100 savings a month. And if instead of just spend it on small little things, if you just force it and you saved it towards your future, I promise you your future self will thank you for sure. So, and ultimately the step number 3, I like to call it step number 3, it's really do both. It's really do both. Take a very intentional approach to increasing your cash flow, not just kind of sort of, I'm hoping, oh, let me just do this first. When I do this, then I will do that. Trust me, you will never do that. That's not how you take your step. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. I did it myself too. It's never gonna happen. If you are serious about changing your financial situation, you have to start like yesterday, and you gotta not only focus on reducing your debt, but also start increasing your savings, also start increasing your investments, whatever the case may be, but however little, because it's the habit. The reason why you're not where you wanna be financially today, it's not even so much a problem of your finances or your debt, it is your habits. It is your habits. And the only way you start changing habits, you can start forcing yourself small. Force yourself to document it, start saving, start having that emergency fund, start paying off that debt a little bit, and do it parallel. Because otherwise, whenever we say, I will do it then never happens. The only way to do it, you have to, if you're serious to change your financial situation, you have to be serious of starting. You say, no, I'm starting today. So to recap real quick, you guys, and then we wrap it up today, is cash flow. The first step to financial independence starts with increasing your cash flow, and that means understanding your cash flow, understanding how we can increase your income, understanding how we can decrease your expenses, and then ultimately do both. And ultimately the result inevitably will be a higher increased cash flow, which now you can have more and more money to put towards your future. So I hope that helped you guys today. As always, please like, share if you believe this would help or be beneficial to someone. And as always, if you have any questions, leave comment below, and I'm so glad to hear from you guys. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time.